I need you to drop whatever you are doing right this second. Put down the laundry, pull the car over, just like completely pause your spreadsheet.
Literally stop what you are doing right now.
Because you are witnessing a foundational shift in the reality television continuum. It is Monday, May 11th, 2026, and the timeline is absolutely, unequivocally in shambles.
It's a glitch in the simulation. A massive one.
We are dealing with a situation so massive that the bad gal herself has officially weighed in on the Atlantic chaos.
We are looking at a profound reconfiguration of the pop culture hierarchy here. I mean, when a billionaire global icon who casually dictates the beauty and fashion standards of the entire planet issues a definitive ruling on a Housewives scuffle.
It's everything.
It elevates the situation from, just petty gossip to historical record. It is now case law. We have legal precedent.
It is officially entered into the Supreme Court of pop culture. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whenever, babes. We are so glad to have you hanging out with us on the Snark side today for this deep dive.
So glad you're here.
But we need to state something for the record right off the top before we get into the weeds of this mess. We absolutely stan Rihanna. Rihanna, babes, if you are listening to us right now, and I choose to believe you are, show us some love.
What is genuinely fascinating here is just the sheer cultural gravity of this moment. Like, we really have to unpack the architecture of Rihanna's tweet.
Yes, let's break it down.
She didn't just casually mention she was watching the show. She flat out stated that she would never want to get on Angela's bad side.
Never.
That is a global, unassailable endorsement of Angela's status as a top-tier shade assassin. You have a woman who built an empire, right?
Yeah.
Someone who stares down music executives and fashion conglomerates.
Literally a billionaire.
Admitting that a housewife from Atlanta terrifies her.
I was physically unwell when I saw the notification. The cultural impact of Rihanna sitting on her couch, drinking whatever fabulous billionaire beverage she drinks.
Probably something incredibly expensive and perfectly chilled.
Exactly. Watching the exact same messy Bravo chaos we are watching and validating our exact reactions, it is everything. Rihanna is literally all of us, except, with a Fenty empire and perfect skin.
Much better skins.
And she is completely right. Angela versus Pinky was pure, unadulterated chaos, but Angela was putting on an absolute masterclass.
If we treat Angela's Reid session like a legal case study, which we should, because it was executed with the precision of a seasoned litigator, she wins on strategy alone.
Oh, hands down.
Let's examine the evidence. She remained entirely calm. In the unwritten legal code of Housewives combat, the person who raises their voice first, who breaks their composure, loses.
That is the golden rule.
Angela didn't just stay calm. She remained seated, maintained unbroken eye contact, and delivered these devastating vocabulary-rich reads. The specific phrase, incestuous commingling teeth.
Oh my gosh.
That is going to be taught in reality TV textbooks for generations.
Incestuous teeth. I died. I literally had to pause the television, walk to my bathroom, and check my own teeth in the mirror just to make sure my molars weren't getting too friendly with each other.
It's a legitimate fear now.
I don't even know how a human brain formulates that combination of words on the fly. And then following it up with Papa Smurf and, okay, Mr. Clean, while Pinky is trying to have a serious meltdown, the creativity is just unmatched.
Well, it is the specificity that makes it lethal, right? She used incestuous, not just crooked or messed up.
Right, it's so specific.
Incestuous implies a genealogical failure. It is a deeply cutting psychological choice of words. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of power dynamics in an argument, Pinky made a fatal error that completely sealed her fate.
Oh, you mean the attempted stomp-off? The fake-out exit?
Precisely. In spatial dominance theory, especially within the confines of reality television production, if you stand up to storm out in a huff, you must cross the threshold of the room.
You have to leave.
You have to commit to the exit and force the cameras to follow you. Pinky stood up, got entirely flustered, turned around, and sat right back down in the exact same chair.
It was so embarrassing.
She vacated her own argument. She surrendered the physical space and the narrative momentum simultaneously.
She totally did. She was getting breathy. You could see her eyes watering a little bit. Her chest was heaving. And when she sat back down, it was over. The jury had reached a verdict.
Case closed.
Angela officially won that scuffle. It wasn't even close. Angela was literally laughing, sipping her drink after every single insult. But that dynamic makes you think. I have a hypothetical question for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
If we put this entire cast in a room, which housewife would actually survive best in a verbal sparring match with Rihanna?
Oh, wow. Well, this raises an important question about fundamental psychological fortitude.
Yeah.
Most of them would instantly crumble because, well, it's Rihanna.
Right. You don't argue with her.
You just ask for a Fenty Beauty restock and hope she doesn't notice you breathing wrong. Kelli would completely malfunction. Her entire operating system would crash, and she would probably just start yelling something incoherent about her closed restaurant.
Oh, she would short circuit immediately.
Yeah,
And Shamea would just look around for Porsha to fight the battle for her.
exactly.
And K. Michelle would probably just demand her glam team intervene and build a literal wall of makeup chairs between them. I think the only one who could even hold her own, just out of pure, unbothered delusion, might be Porsha.
You think Porsha.
Because Porsha fights so dirty, she will just drop a classified FBI-level secret about your personal life and then take a sip of her cocktail like nothing happened.
I actually have to disagree with you there. Porsha operates on the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, yes, but against Rihanna.
She would try.
She would try, but Porsha relies on Atlanta-based street intel. Rihanna operates on a global intelligence level. Porsha would bring a rumor from the shade room, and Rihanna would bring satellite imagery.
Okay, that is fair.
Honestly, the only one who survives is Angela, by employing the exact same tactics she used on Pinky, terrifying, unblinking stillness. But anyway, transitioning from the global president of the Snark Squad, Rihanna, to you, our loyal, everyday listeners, we need to show some serious love.
Yes. Babes, I have been absolutely living for all the comments and DMs you've been sending us.
They have been so good.
The support has been amazing, and the squad is truly chaotic in the best possible way. I'm reading these messages in bed at 2 a.m., just cackling to myself, because you all live for the mess just as much as we do. Your analytical shade is so on point.
The level of psychological profiling in our DMs is truly impressive. It rivals professional behavioral analysis at this point. Which brings us to the perfect moment for one of our favorite segments, Shady, Snarky, or Stupid.
My favorite.
We are going to evaluate 3 messy, petty, slightly unhinged, and very Housewives-coded confessions submitted by you, based on real online reactions to this week's chaos. We will evaluate the methodology and determine a ruling.
I live for this. Okay, confession number 1. The room complaint fatigue. A listener writes that they are so intensely petty they mentally check out, grab their phone, and just fast forward anytime a newbie on a cast trip starts yelling and cackling about a dirty room.
Wow. Fast forwarding is aggressive.
They say, I do not care about the baseboards. I do not care about the thread count. Get to the real trauma. So I ask you, are they being shady, snarky, or stupid?
I am going to rule this as snarky, but highly accurate and completely justified from a viewer fatigue standpoint.
Completely justified.
What's fascinating here is the impatience with prolonged logistical drama over actual emotional conflict. Every minute spent arguing about bedsheets, dust, or who gets the pool house is a minute we lose of real, deep-seated psychological warfare.
Yes. Give us the real mess.
It is Housewives 101, really. The room assignment is just the match. It's supposed to light the fire. But the argument needs to quickly evolve into personal grievances. Lingering on the dirt is amateur behavior. It shows you don't have enough social capital to fight about anything real.
I totally agree. It's snarky and completely validated. Babes, if I wanted to see someone complain about dust on a baseboard, I would watch a hotel inspector documentary on PBS.
Literally.
I am here for the emotional devastation, not a Swiffer commercial. Okay, confession number 2, the fashion read. A listener confesses they actually paused their television, walked up to the screen to closely examine Kelly's outfit during the argument, and decided she looks like she is auditioning for Disney on Ice. Rio mixed with a traumatized leopard print dog.
Oh, the surgical precision of that insult.
Right.
We have to evaluate the cruelty versus the accuracy of the read. And honestly, it is mathematically sound.
It's just facts.
We have to look at the psychology of overdressing on reality television. Kelly's fashion choices and her poor, pink, leopard-printed dog are visually overwhelming. It is a defense mechanism.
He's hiding behind the feathers.
Exactly. She is trying to construct a flamboyant, untouchable persona because she lacks a compelling core narrative. Plus, there's a distinct lack of structural support in her garments, which we will definitely analyze later. I rule this shady. It is a direct, devastating, visually accurate observation.
Definitely shady. If the Disney on Ice Rio comparison is going to live in my head rent-free for the rest of my natural life. The feathers, the bright colors, the absolute chaos of the silhouette, it's just a lot.
Here's a sensory overload.
All right, confession number 3, the deflection author. A listener admits they immediately went to Amazon to buy Pinky's 86-page e-book, A Wife in the Basement, just to see if she actually spun Angela's Red into a legitimate business venture.
Incredible dedication.
So buying the book empowering support of a woman in business, or just plain stupid?
This is a deeply complex sociological question. On one hand, investigating the primary source material is always commendable. Intellectual curiosity should be rewarded.
We love a scholar.
On the other hand, giving actual fiat currency to an 86-page Kindle direct publishing deflection tactic. I have to rule this stupid.
I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, Pinky literally took Angela's insult, slapped a rushed graphic design cover on a landing page, and is attempting to rewrite the historical record in real time. Buying it only encourages the perjury. It validates the PR crisis management strategy.
It is so stupid. Babes, keep your $9.99 or whatever she's charging for that rushed PDF file. Buy yourself an iced coffee instead.
Seriously, save your money.
But I do deeply love and respect the chaotic commitment to the research. You are out here doing the Lord's work so we don't have to. Now, all this rapid-fire judgment requires some serious hydration, specifically of the alcoholic variety.
Which brings us to the ambient mechanical noise our listeners might be picking up on in the background.
Yes. And babes, listen to me carefully. If anyone hears that low humming sound, do not panic. Your headphones are fine. You do not need to check your Bluetooth connection or restart your phone.
Don't touch your volume.
That is just the ninja slush working absolute overtime on the kitchen counter because, babes, we are currently churning an Aperol slush for after this wine.
I will act as the unlicensed mixologist and behavioral scientist here to explain the exact mechanics of why frozen cocktails empirically taste better when debating Bravo chaos.
Please educate us.
It is a matter of physiological temperature regulation. Watching these reality TV spirals, the screaming matches, the veins popping out of necks, it literally raises your core body temperature through sympathetic nervous system activation.
I am sweating just thinking about the episode.
Exactly. The Aperol slush acts as a necessary internal coolant. It allows for a prolonged, sustained snark without overheating the system. It's just science.
It is an aesthetic masterpiece. I am staring at it right now. The perfect, consistent churn, the bright, vibrant orange color matching the sheer toxicity of the episode we are about to discuss. I am obsessed.
It's beautiful.
In fact, I will confidently assert right here and now that this specific kitchen appliance works harder than most men in Atlanta.
Wow. A bold statement, but fair.
It never complains. It delivers perfectly textured slush every single time. It doesn't talk back, and it looks fantastic sitting on a countertop.
It is currently the most reliable, supporting cast member we have in our lives. It understands the assignment.
Truly. Okay, let's grab our pre-slush wine, get comfortable, and take a deep breath because we have to unpack a deep dive that felt like two completely different, terrifying movies mashed together in the editing bay. We are diving into the morning after in Dallas.
The morning after on a cast trip is always the most revealing sociological study. The adrenaline from the night before has faded, the alcohol has processed, and the delusion begins to set in.
Oh, that delusion was heavy.
The cast must now construct their individual narratives of what happened. We start with the morning check-ins, specifically Pinky's FaceTime call with her husband. And here is where we encounter blatant, verifiable perjury.
Pinky's FaceTime perjury. Okay, I was screaming at the television screen. She is laying in bed on the phone with her husband, recounting the massive fight with Angela from the night before.
Setting the scene.
And she looks right into the camera and says, "Yeah, she said we got a third wife." I paused the TV. I physically picked up my remote and rewound the episode.
The receipts do not lie.
Angela never, at any point, uttered the words third wife. Angela said, crystal clear, wife in the basement.
Let's analyze the transcript and the rhetorical strategy here. Why alter the exact phrasing? Changing wife in the basement to third wife is a deliberate, calculated shift in meaning.
It changes everything.
Third wife implies a sister-wife polygamy situation, which Pinky can easily laugh off to her husband as an absurd, baseless rumor. Wife in the basement, however, implies a hidden, dark secret.
Something insidious.
Right. It implies subservience, or perhaps someone doing all the actual manual labor behind the scenes while Pinky takes the credit. More importantly, she is actively trying to hide the fact that she actually wrote an ebook called A Wife in the Basement to cover her tracks.
Yes, she's covering it up.
It's a complete, multi-tiered deflection strategy designed to gaslight both her husband and the viewing audience.
It is pathological. She wants us to believe Angela was somehow psychically referring to her newly published 86-page Amazon KDP novella that she whipped up overnight. You are not fooling us, Pinky. We have the takes.
We all saw it?
And her husband's reaction, he just kind of brushed past it. Like, if we have one, tell her to help pay these bills. Which, by the way, speaking of bills, the absolute hypocrisy of Pinky throwing out money insults later in the episode when her own CFO is getting indicted for wire fraud and she is actively filing for bankruptcy.
The audacity is staggering.
Babes, we will get there. I promise you, we will tear that apart. But first, we need to talk about K. Michelle's truancy.
The absolute refusal to attend the welcome dinner. A fascinating display of misplaced priorities.
Yes. K. Michelle literally refused to leave her room and go to the very first dinner of the cast trip solely because her glam team wasn't there to paint her face.
Unbelievable.
I had a visceral, emotional reaction to this. I was infuriated. Not showing up for the first dinner of a cast trip is the exact equivalent of time theft at an hourly job. You are getting paid a hefty salary to be on an ensemble cast reality show.
To show up to work?
Put some lip gloss on, throw on a pair of oversized sunglasses if you have to, and get your behind in the Sprinter van.
If we examine the unwritten hierarchy of Housewives, this is a severe tactical miscalculation. You could only skip a mandatory cast dinner if you are a top-tier, untouchable, foundational legend of the franchise.
Like an OG.
Exactly. If Nene Leakes skips dinner in season 7, it is a storyline about her immense power and boundary setting. If K. Michelle, who is still a newbie trying to find her footing and establish alliances in this ensemble, skips dinner because of a delayed makeup artist, it just breeds immediate resentment.
Nobody feels bad for her.
It shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the assignment. The glam team is supposed to be an accessory to the drama, not a barrier preventing you from participating in it.
Exactly. You haven't earned the right to stay in your room. Porsha and Phaedra were trying to be sweet about it the next morning, walking in like, "Oh, honey, you would have been fine without makeup. We missed your energy."
Playing a nice ants.
But, you know, internally, they were incredibly annoyed. They're professionals. They know she dropped the ball. And honestly, speaking of makeup, we have to talk about Phaedra's morning look.
Yes. The aesthetic choices made during the morning light.
It was so jarring. She is sitting there at the breakfast table in the harsh, unforgiving Dallas morning sun, and the foundation shade was, well, it was a choice.
A very bold choice.
It was giving Kyle Willis-Watkins funeral home realness. Was it the lighting? Was it the wrong undertone? It was almost gray. It looked like she was prepped for reviewing. I need her to locate that specific glam team member and hand them a pink slip immediately.
From a technical standpoint, it was likely a severe flashback issue. The setting powder used by her makeup artist probably contains silica, which reflects light back at the camera lens, especially in natural, direct sunlight.
So it wasn't the foundation.
It creates a white or gray cast on the skin. But regardless of the chemical cause, it was visually distracting. However, the real distraction at that breakfast table was the psychological warfare happening right next to her. The fake-out between Drew and Shamea.
The passive-aggressive breakfast ballet. I absolutely love watching Drew work. She is a menace, and I respect it.
She's very calculated.
She is sitting there sipping her tea, giving this soft, demure, almost whispery voice. I really don't like drama. I just want peace. Meanwhile, she is actively, surgically, refusing to accept Shamea's apology for the sit-down with Ralph last season.
Drew is executing a collegiate-level masterclass in conflict manipulation here. Let's break down the mechanics.
Break it down.
Shamea says, "I apologized," attempting to close the loop on the grievance. Drew immediately counters with, "I didn't receive it because it was an I apologize BUT."
The but ruins it.
Drew knows exactly how to get under Shamea's skin. By remaining completely soft-spoken and outwardly unbothered, while holding an absolutely impenetrable diamond-hard grudge, she forces Shamea to escalate.
And Shamea is just getting more and more frustrated. Her voice is rising, her hands are moving, because Drew will not give her the satisfaction of a screaming match.
Drew is a wall.
Drew is basically saying, your apology wasn't good enough, but I'm going to say it with a smile. It just proves that leaving these women to fester in their unresolved grudges overnight without a proper blowout only creates a powder keg for the daytime excursions. Which brings us to the logistics of the day, the cast split.
The logistical division of labor. Production knows exactly what they're doing. Cynthia divides the ladies into 2 vehicles and 2 activities.
A strategic separation.
The established veterans, the OGs, plus K. Michelle and Angela go to the horses. The newbies, plus Drew and Cynthia, go to the cattle drive. It is a stark segregation of seniority.
And this is where we get the glorious, triumphant return of 50 Cent, the sprinter van of gripes. Shamea and Kelli are sitting in Cynthia's car, and they are still, hours later, complaining about the dirty pool house.
It's exhausting.
They are complaining about the chefs looking in the windows, the dirty sheets, the fact that they had to share a bed. They are monologuing about dust.
It is an exhausting circular narrative loop. As we discussed in the listener confessions, the room complaint is a dead-end storyline. It has nowhere to go.
Literally nowhere.
They are acting as if Cynthia maliciously snuck into the pool house at 3 a.m. and personally rubbed dirt on the baseboards to spite them. It is a severe lack of situational awareness to complain to the host about the accommodations ad nauseum.
Right, and Cynthia finally snaps. Babes, you could practically see the invisible durag spawning on her head.
She was done.
She is clutching the neck of a tequila bottle like it is a blunt force weapon, and she just declares with her chest, "This is not a hostage situation. If you don't want to be here, leave. The door is right there."
That is the ultimate veteran move. Cynthia understands the structural rhythm of reality television better than anyone. She knows when an argument has become dead weight that is dragging down the pacing of the episode.
She felt the energy dying.
She tried the diplomatic approach first. She apologized. She said she would get cleaners. She tried to appease them. But when they refused to drop it, she recognized they were just performing for the cameras, so she shut down the production entirely.
The cameras.
She essentially told them, "You are ruining my trip, you are ruining the setup for my upcoming gala, and I am cutting your mic time."
Are you trying to sabotage my trip? I loved it. I cheered in my living room. But of course, while Cynthia is effectively shutting down the room talk, Kelli realizes she is losing screen time and decides to pivot. She randomly, out of absolutely nowhere, decides to attack Drew's physical appearance.
The certain body-shaming escalation. From a strategic standpoint, this was a bizarre and desperate tactical choice by Kelli.
So bizarre. Drew is literally just sitting there trying to be a peacemaker, saying, "Hey, at least you got a good night's sleep. You look gorgeous today."
A simple compliment.
And Kelli snaps back with, "What's wrong with your neck?" And then calls Drew the alien from your movie. It was so unprovoked.
We have to analyze this as a textbook example of narcissistic injury, resulting in an ad hominem attack. Kelli's core narrative, that she is a victim of a dirty room and a bad host, was just dismantled by Cynthia.
She felt foolish.
Feeling exposed and defensive, she lashes out at the easiest target, Drew, using a base physical insult because she lacks the intellectual agility to formulate a substantive critique. But she drastically underestimated Drew's reflex speed.
Oh, you do not come for Drew.
Drew, who never, ever misses a beat to secure her peach in her contract renewal, immediately fires back with, "And what do you look like? Misproportioned."
Misproportioned. I shrieked. I threw my phone because, babes, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The forums online are in absolute shambles over Kelli's fashion.
It's a huge topic of discussion.
There is an entire mega thread dedicated to the fact that she refuses to wear proper structural undergarments. She is a very top-heavy woman. She has a shorter torso, and she constantly wears these chaotic, feathered, cutout outfits that provide zero support. It looks painful.
It looks structurally unsound.
So when Drew hit her with misproportioned, Kelli couldn't even say anything. She just kind of shimmied her chest because she knew, deep down, the read was architecturally accurate.
It highlights a staggering lack of self-awareness. If you are going to launch an unprovoked critique based on another woman's physical appearance, your own visual presentation must be completely unassailable. You must be bulletproof.
You cannot live in a glass house.
Kelli's face card transactions are regularly declining due to insufficient stylistic funds. Whereas Drew, as many viewers noted during this exact episode, has an incredibly strong, perfectly glammed face card right now. Her aesthetic execution is flawless.
Exactly. Drew's face card never declines. The limit does not exist. So while Cynthia's car feels like a tense hostage negotiation where everyone hates each other, the other car is a literal joyride. The contrast is wild.
It perfectly proves the sociological theory that veteran energy creates a much better, more sustainable television environment. Porsha, Phaedra, K. Michelle, and Angela are having an absolute blast.
They know how to produce a show.
They understand that the audience needs moments of levity. They are listening to music, joking around, building actual rapport.
And K. Michelle is taking this relaxed time to explain her DMs with Black. Drew had implied the night before that they were hooking up, and K. Michelle is fiercely denying it, saying he was just salivating over some cake she baked and posted on Instagram.
I have to push back on K. Michelle's reaction here. The defensive posture she takes over this DM is fascinating, but ultimately telling.
Why do you think?
She claims Drew is aggressively implying she's doing something inappropriate as a married woman, but simply asking, "Do you know him?" in a group setting isn't a direct accusation of infidelity. K. Michelle's vastly overreacting.
I completely agree. She was doing way too much. I don't have no cakes to give him. I'm a married woman. Babes, we get it. Nobody accused you of adultery.
It's a disproportionate response.
She is either overreacting to secure her own storyline because she knows she skipped dinner, or she fundamentally misreads the group's social cues. But honestly, the real revelation in this car ride wasn't the baked goods. It was equestrian Phaedra.
Yes. The shocking, paradigm-shifting disclosure that Phaedra Parks used to competitively ride in collegiate dressage.
I fell out of my chair, dressage. Yeah. The fancy, rhythmic dancing horses. Of course Phaedra did that. It makes zero sense, and yet it makes perfect sense.
It is entirely consistent with her brand.
It is so perfectly on brand for her meticulously crafted Southern belle, multi-hyphenate, attorney, mortician, equestrian author persona. But then they actually get to the stables, and the reality of the situation hits them, and it is a disaster.
It is the classic Housewives trope of cosplaying country life for aesthetic purposes, but violently refusing to actually participate in the labor or the reality of the environment.
They were not ready.
Production brings them to a working farm, and they show up in skirts and stilettos.
Angela literally gets out of the car in a little cocktail dress and heels. They are greeted by the riding instructor, and the horse immediately starts acting crazy. It is bucking, jumping, shaking its head to the point where Phaedra and Angela literally fall to the ground, scrambling backwards in the dirt to get away.
The animals can sense the chaotic, anxious energy vibrating off of these women. Horses are highly perceptive prey animals. When 4 women covered in heavy perfume and anxiety approach them, they react accordingly.
They really can. And then comes the absolute categorical refusal to ride the horses. No one will get on. Porsha looks at the magnificent creature and says, "I'm not dressed to ride a cow today." It's a horse, Porsha. It is a majestic horse.
The disrespect to the animal.
But the best excuse, the absolute most iconic quote of the entire night, goes to Phaedra.
The wig adhesive defense. A stroke of genius.
Yes. She refuses to put the riding helmet on because she claims her wig isn't glued down enough to withstand the suction of taking the helmet off. And then in her confessional, she throws the most beautiful, subtle cross-country shade at an entirely different franchise.
It was masterful.
She looks at the producer and says, "Do that with Beverly Hills. Theirs ain't tacked down either."
It is a masterful, multi-layered, cross-franchise read. It acknowledges the universal truth and struggle of reality TV hair maintenance, while simultaneously elevating Atlanta's grooming standards above Beverly Hills.
The ultimate flex.
She is essentially saying, we might be messy, but our lace fronts are secure. Go bother Kyle Richards with this helmet.
I had to stand up and applaud in my living room. It was art. But then production decides to orchestrate the most baffling scene of the episode. They set up a fine Italian wine tasting in the dead center of the working horse stable.
Surrounded by hay, riding equipment, and the overwhelming ambient aroma of fresh manure.
I would have thrown up immediately. I physically cannot eat or drink when it smells like an actual petting zoo. They are standing there swirling these delicate glasses of expensive Italian red wine, pretending to get the subtle notes of blackberry and oak, while standing exactly 3 feet from a literal pile of horse dung.
It was pure absurdity.
It perfectly encapsulates the dual nature of the entire reality TV machine, right? Constantly attempting to project high society luxury and sophistication while inevitably wallowing in literal and metaphorical mess.
Which provides a seamless transition to the lunch setting for Cynthia's group. The stark contrast between the fun OG car and the miserable newbie car culminates when Cynthia's group sits down for BBQ, and the real mentorship goes horribly, terribly wrong.
The vegan at the BBQ. Okay, Cynthia takes her group to this spot in the Fort Worth Stockyards. It is Texas. It is a famous BBQ joint. They are ordering racks of ribs, loaded beef nachos, massive smash burgers, and Pinky is a strict vegan.
The dietary restriction dilemma, a classic test of hosting etiquette versus guest entitlement.
Yes. Pinky looks at the menu, realizes she can't eat anything, and has to order a sad plate of French fries. And she makes a very pointed, passive-aggressive remark to the table. "I'll just have fries because I'm vegan." Now, I have a hot take on this, and I want your analytical opinion.
Let's hear it.
Was Cynthia being shady for not checking dietary restrictions when planning the itinerary? Or should a grown vegan woman traveling to the literal meat capital of Texas plan ahead and bring a protein bar?
From a purely traditional logistical standpoint, the host of the trip bears the responsibility of accommodating the basic physiological needs of the guests. However, we have to look at Cynthia's confessional response.
What does she say again?
She essentially states that if you agree to go to Texas, you know there will be meat, so pack accordingly. This reveals a profound lack of patience with Pinky's overall presence. I argue the BBQ restaurant choice wasn't just an oversight. It was a subconscious, or perhaps even conscious, punitive measure for the room complaints the night before. Cynthia was asserting dominance.
I have to push back on that. I completely disagree. I don't think Cynthia is that Machiavellian. I think Pinky is using her veganism as a manipulation tactic to play the victim.
You think it was a setup?
Yes. If you are an adult with strict dietary needs, you don't go on a group trip and expect the world to bend to you. You speak up beforehand, or you pack snacks. Sitting there pouting over a plate of fries is just a way to garner sympathy because she knows she alienated everyone the night before.
That is a fair interpretation of Pinky's secondary gain from the situation.
Yeah.
And while Pinky is quietly eating her sad, punitive fries, the conversation around her descends into absolute madness. Drew and Shamea somehow discover they are both type O blood.
The blood transfusion hypothetical, it was so unhinged. Shamea literally looks at Drew and says she would demand a genuine, heartfelt apology from Drew before she would ever consent to give her a life-saving blood transfusion.
It is a fascinating, morbid display of holding a grudge to the absolute extreme edge of human mortality. I will let you perish unless you validate my feelings about a sit-down from last year.
And Drew's reaction, Drew just stands up in the middle of this crowded Texas BBQ restaurant and starts aggressively twerking for the blood. Give me the blood. Give me the blood.
Twerking for life-saving intravenous fluids in a public restaurant is peak Atlanta behavior. It is the perfect synthesis of high stakes and low brow. But Cynthia, acting as the matriarch trying to maintain some semblance of order, sits them down because she has a much larger, more serious agenda. She needs to mentor Pinky.
Right. Cynthia decides to address the war of words from the welcome dinner. She leans in, trying to be a big sister, and explains to Pinky that the actual words she used weren't the problem, but her delivery was. She says Pinky came to the table curt.
Cynthia is attempting to provide a crash course in Housewives communication theory. She explicitly tells Pinky, please don't come in here and run the whole conversation and not open up the floor.
Such good advice.
She is correctly identifying Pinky's habit of strong-arming a narrative, delivering a monologue, and not allowing the ensemble cast to react naturally. It is terrible television production on Pinky's part.
But Pinky immediately gets defensive. She completely misses the constructive veteran criticism and latches onto the word aggressive. She says, it's very disrespectful to call somebody aggressive, especially with all Black women have to go through.
Okay, this requires deep, impartial, sociological analysis because it touches on a very real, very problematic media trope. We have to look at both sides of this reaction objectively.
Exactly. We have to acknowledge and report that labeling Black women as aggressive in reality television and media at large has a long, documented racist history.
It's an issue of historical weight.
It is a microaggression that has been historically weaponized by producers and castmates to police tone, invalidate righteous anger, and paint women as villains. People online are definitely pointing out that Pinky's sensitivity to that specific word, in a vacuum, has valid cultural context.
That historical context is undeniable, and many viewers completely side with Pinky on that premise alone. However, if we look at the other side of the discourse, viewers are also analyzing the specific mechanical context of this exact interaction.
Right, the specific details.
Yeah. They argue Pinky is weaponizing a valid sociological issue to serve as an impenetrable shield for her own poor social graces. Cynthia, carefully choosing her words, actually used the word curt. It was Drew who casually threw in the word aggressive from the sidelines. Critics argue Pinky zeroes in on the most loaded term just to shut down the critique of her behavior entirely.
Right. The timeline is completely split on this. Half the Snark squad says it was a microaggression, and the other half says she's deflecting. But the general consensus is that trying to control the dinner conversation like a rookie substitute teacher rewriting the syllabus on day one is just bad strategy.
It's a rejection of unearned authority.
You don't get to give monologues on this show unless you have earned your peach for 5 consecutive seasons.
Precisely. Pinky's inability to absorb constructive criticism from a veteran like Cynthia demonstrates a fatal lack of adaptability. In reality TV, if you cannot pivot, you perish. Instead of adjusting her strategy, she retreats. She seeks out a psychological echo chamber, which leads directly to the toxic, delusional alliance formed back at the rental house.
The tiny house treachery. Oh my gosh. The scene made my blood boil. Kelli visits Pinky in her tiny, allegedly dirty pool house room. And they just sit there on the bed, commiserating over how they are so self-made and resilient and misunderstood by the mean older women.
The delusions of grandeur in this scene were palpable. The air in that room must have been thick with cognitive dissonance.
It was suffocating. They are bonding over how much better they are than everyone else. And then Pinky drops this absolute bomb. She claims she built her business on her back, meaning through hard work and heavy lifting, while implying Angela made her money laying on her back.
The casual, unprovoked slut-shaming of a senior castmate.
It made me so angry. The pure, unadulterated hypocrisy of it all. Let's talk about the reality of the situation. How are you going to brag about being in a higher tax bracket, Pinky, when public records show you are actively filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy?
The financial records are public.
Your CFO was just indicted for wire fraud. You owe thousands in back rent on your physical restaurant locations. And Kelli is sitting there nodding along, calling herself a highly successful restaurateur, when her own restaurant literally just closed its doors to the public.
This is a textbook projection mechanism. They are both experiencing extreme financial and social insecurity. They are attempting to elevate their own fragile standing by tearing down the established OGs with baseless, misogynistic insults.
It's so transparent.
When your bank account can no longer provide the high ground, you artificially construct a moral high ground.
It is infuriating. Pinky literally looked at the camera and said she doesn't want to argue with Angela because Angela is beneath her tax bracket. Babes, your tax bracket is currently in federal court. Be so for real right now. You cannot afford to pay attention, let alone throw shade.
This bubbling resentment, this deeply rooted insecurity from the newbies toward the veterans, creates the perfect psychological storm. It sets the stage for the climax of the episode.
The main event.
Production knows exactly what they're doing. You lock these 8 women in a confined, moving vehicle after a day of mounting tensions, alcohol consumption, and perceived slights, and combustion is not just possible. It is inevitable.
The sprinter van from hell, R. Kelly, secrets and scissoring. Babes, listen to me. This was the most chaotic, terrifying vehicle ride in Atlanta history. I held my breath for 10 solid minutes.
The architecture of this scene is brilliant. The spatial confinement of the sprinter van removes the flight response. They can only fight. And it began with what seemed like an innocent icebreaker.
Cynthia, bless her heart, tries to keep it positive. She plays the role of the camp counselor. She opens the floor by asking everyone what they learned about each other on the trip so far. And Kay Michelle, providing some levity, says she learned Phaedra is a household white lady name, which, honestly, hilarious and true.
A great tension breaker.
But then the bone collector strikes. Angela, innocently, and by innocently I mean messily and with full malice aforethought, asks Kelli who showed up to her restaurant opening. Now, Angela knows damn well Porsha skipped that opening.
She knows exactly what she's doing.
She knows Porsha and Kelli have beef. She is just lighting the fuse on the dynamite, dropping it in Kelli's lap, and walking away.
It is surgical instigation. The bone collector archetype is vital to the ecosystem. She hoards information as social currency and deploys it to orchestrate conflict without getting her own hands dirty. She knows the exact specific question to ask to detonate the dormant Porsha-Kelli feud.
And it explodes immediately. Kelli fires off, attacking Porsha for allegedly sleeping with married men. And as the screaming matches the volume of the engine, it culminates in Kelli screaming across the narrow aisle of the van, "Did you not sleep with R. Kelli?"
We need to stop the tape right here and fundamentally break down why this is a horrific, vile, and ethically bankrupt read.
Please do, because my jaw dropped to the floor. I felt sick to my stomach.
Weaponizing R. Kelli against Porsha is not a clever gotcha moment. It is not shade. Porsha explicitly, bravely wrote about her traumatic, deeply abusive experience with R. Kelli in her published memoir.
She put it in print to help people.
She shared that horrifying story to illustrate how terrified and manipulated she was as a young woman, and specifically to help other young women recognize the cycles of predation and abuse. To take a survivor's published trauma, rip it out of context, and throw it in her face as an insult to score cheap points during a petty argument about a restaurant opening is the lowest of the low.
It's disgusting.
It is indefensible behavior that crosses the line from reality TV drama into real-world cruelty.
It is beyond tacky. Porsha was young. She was systematically manipulated by a known convicted serial predator. For Kelli to scream that on a Springer van in front of a camera crew, it shows exactly the darkness inside Kelli. It shows a complete lack of empathy.
It completely alters the moral alignment of the van. By crossing that specific line, Kelli inadvertently validates whatever retaliation Porsha chooses to deploy. When someone goes to the basement of human decency, the standard rules of engagement are suspended. The gloves come off.
And Porsha did not hold back. She goes nuclear. She reaches into her dossier and exposes that Kelli slept with a married man on BT weekend.
The counterattack.
She details the logistics. She says they shared a flight, he went to Kelli's hotel room, and the panties came off.
And Kelli, shockingly, instead of categorically denying it, admits to the sequence of events. She confirms the flight and the room, though she attempts to spin a highly improbable narrative that she just went to her room to change clothes for dinner with Shamea.
Nobody believed that.
But the narrative damage is done. The seed is planted. And Porsha, smelling blood in the water, threatens to name the man on camera.
Let's put it all out there. Let's say who it is right now. And this is where the plot twist of the century happens. The entire dynamic shifts in a millisecond. Phaedra steps in.
Phaedra the protector. The meta layer of the show reveals itself.
Phaedra yells, "No, no, no, don't do it." But not to protect the man who was allegedly cheating. No, she intervenes to protect his wife, whom Phaedra says she knows personally.
This is a staggering, monumental revelation. We have to look at the invisible web of Atlanta high society. If Phaedra Parks, the mortician, the attorney, the socialite, knows the wife personally, that means this mystery man is likely deeply entrenched in the Atlanta Bravo sphere.
He has to be irregular.
It means he is a power player. It adds a terrifying layer of absolute reality to Porsha's accusation. This isn't just a random rumor. This is an entanglement with their actual social circle.
It makes it so real. The wife absolutely deserves to know, but doing it on national television, blindsiding her while she's watching Bravo on a Sunday night, is brutal. And after Phaedra effectively shuts down the doxing, the tension has nowhere to go but down. The final spiral hits.
It completely derails.
It descends into pure gutter madness. Kelli, having lost the logical argument, calls Porsha a whore. Porsha yells, "You tried to scissor me."
A fascinating linguistic descent from strategic reads to base anatomical insults. And Kelli responds with the now infamous line about a hot chili cheese Frito pussy.
I cannot even say it without physically cringing. It was absolute unfiltered hysteria. I immediately compared it in my mind to the iconic Condi Burris versus Porsha argument from season 9, where Condi screams, "You said you wanted to eat Mama Taka."
Very similar energy.
It had that exact same unhinged, chaotic, out-of-body energy. You are just watching a car crash in slow motion.
It was a total breakdown of civility. Which brings us to a necessary speculative conclusion regarding the rookies. Based on the psychological profiles displayed on this trip, do you think Pinky and Kelli will be one-season wonders?
Honestly, a one-season flop feels so incredibly fitting for both of them right now. Pinky lacks the social agility to read the room and immediately alienates the veterans who control the narrative.
She has no finesse.
And Kelli resorts to traumatic low blows and just screeching when she feels cornered. They are emotionally exhausting to watch. But if they leave, it begs the question, who is the true queen of this franchise based on the power dynamics of this trip?
It is a fiercely contested throne. Porsha has the raw, destructive power. But right now, I argue Angela is manipulating the board with terrifying, quiet efficiency, while Cynthia is proving why the foundational OGs are absolutely essential for narrative structure. Cynthia controls the pacing, while Angela controls the poison.
When we look at the entire landscape of this trip, we have to formally evaluate the tactical execution. With all those reads, the delusions, and the behavioral breakdowns laid out on the table, it is time to make it official. We are handing out this week's Snark Side Awards.
Let's do it.
Let's jump into our first evaluation Shade Assassin rankings. I want you to rank the cast from weakest to strongest when it comes to the pure art of throwing shade this week.
We must establish the parameters. Shade requires wit, timing, and emotional detachment. Let's start at the bottom tier. Kelli and Shamea reside here. Kelli tries entirely too hard. She's loud, lacks finesse, and resorts to traumatic low blows, like the R. Kelly comment and base anatomical insults.
Exactly.
That is not shade, it is just desperate vitriol. Shamea is similarly weak because she requires a proxy Porsha to fight her battles, and she relies on drawn-out, repetitive grievances about a year-old apology.
Bottom tier, absolutely. Mid-tier for me is Drew and Phaedra. Drew is quick with the comeback. The misproportioned read was lethal and visually accurate, but she stays demure and plays the victim a little too much to be a true assassin. She wants clean hands.
She likes to be the innocent bystander.
Exactly. Phaedra is quiet during the actual physical fights, but she is deadly with the confessional reads. The Beverly Hills wig shade was top-tier, Emmy-worthy writing.
Which leaves the top tier. Porsha occupies this space because she operates like a rogue intelligence agency. She casually drops classified FBI-level secrets, the Bet Weekend dossier, with devastating pinpoint timing. She alters the reality of the people around her. But the undisputed #1 this week, the apex predator, is Angela.
Angela is the reigning, undisputed shade assassin, remaining completely calm, not raising her vocal register once, while delivering vocabulary-rich reads like incestuous commingling teeth. She is the blueprint. She is the standard.
She wrote the book.
Okay, moving on to our next evaluation. It makes you wonder how these exact dynamics translate off camera. Imagine the absolute terror of digital communication with these women. Who would survive group chat warfare? If the Housewives were locked in a toxic family text thread, who would dominate?
I will firmly argue for Cynthia.
Really? Cynthia over Porsha. I have to push back on that immediately.
Hear me out. In a group chat, stamina and emotional detachment are key. Digital warfare is about attrition. Cynthia will hit you with the ultimate dismissive voice note. This is not a hostage situation. Leave. And then she will literally put the chat on do not disturb, plug her phone in, and take a nap.
So she just ignores it.
She wins by refusing to engage in the spiraling text walls. She denies them the oxygen of her attention.
Okay, I see the logic, but I completely disagree. Muting the chat shows boundary setting, sure, but in reality TV warfare, retreating is forfeiting. You cannot win if you aren't on the battlefield. I argue for Porsha.
Tell me why.
Porsha is the dangerous cousin in the group chat. She will absolutely scroll back through 3 years of chat history, screenshot your deepest, darkest, most vulnerable secret that you confessed in 2023, and drop it in the chat with zero warning, no context, and just a single eyeball emoji.
A digital sniper.
She fights dirty in text format. She will make you throw your phone in a lake.
A valid counterpoint. Mutually assured destruction translates well to iMessage. But strategy implies a connection to reality, which some of these women completely lack. Which brings us to our next award, most delusional this week. We must award the cast member living furthest from empirical reality.
The nominees are incredibly strong this week. K. Michelle is nominated for needing a full, multi-person glam squad just to eat a plate of ribs with her friends. That is a heavy, isolating level of delusion.
It's very out of touch.
But Pinky is also nominated for actively bragging about being out of everyone's tax bracket while literally currently filing for bankruptcy and having her assets examined by the federal government.
Both are strong, textbook examples of cognitive dissonance. But the winner, undeniably, has to be Kelli.
It's Kelli, calling herself a self-made, highly successful restaurateur while her restaurant is visibly, legally closed to the public. But the real delusion, the absolute break from reality, is thinking she could go toe-to-toe with Porsha Williams on a locked Sprinter van and survive.
An absolute failure of risk assessment.
You do not step to Porsha unless your closet is completely, entirely free of skeletons.
Exactly. Kelli brought a plastic butter knife to a nuclear launch facility. It was a fatal miscalculation of her own standing. Finally, speaking of maintaining a connection to reality and communicating effectively, imagine if they had our job. Which housewife would thrive as a podcaster?
Oh, this is a good one.
If they entered our audio world, who would dominate the charts and who would get canceled immediately?
Oh, to dominate Angela. Absolutely, without a doubt, Angela. She has the perfect, soothing voice. The cadence is so smooth and rhythmic. And she has that incredible, terrifying ability to interview someone, smile at them, and subtly read them to filth without them even realizing they've been insulted until they listen to the recording back a week later.
She would be brilliant at it.
She would have the #1 interview show on the charts.
I concur. Her analytical distance and emotional regulation make for excellent, compelling audio. As for who would get canceled immediately, the data points to Pinky.
Unquestionably, Pinky, it would be a disaster.
She would talk over all her guests. She would refuse to open the floor for questions, monopolizing the microphone for hour-long monologues. And inevitably, due to her absolute lack of filter, she would accidentally drop an unhinged PR nightmare about her own failing businesses while trying to brag about her wealth.
Oh, the self-incrimination.
The legal liabilities alone would shut the production down within 3 episodes.
The cease and desist letters from her own lawyers would be flying. She would accidentally confess to wire fraud, just trying to sound rich. Yeah, I moved the money, so what? Babes, this session was an absolute marathon, but we made it through the Dallas chaos together.
It was a robust, exhausting examination of the human condition operating under extreme, Bravo-induced pressure. The psychological weight of this trip is immense.
Thank you so much to the Snark Squad for hanging out, spiraling with us, and pouring up the Aperol slushes. We absolutely love reading your comments and your DMs, so please keep sending in those shady, snarky, or stupid submissions.
The messier, the better.
The messier the confession, the better.
And cheers to another incredibly chaotic, psychologically damaging Bravo week.
Cheers. Now, we have a call to action for you, babes. We need you to sound off in the comments right now. Are you Team Angela or Team Pinky after that explosive showdown? What was your absolute favorite read from the episode? And most importantly, which housewife would you personally never want to argue with? Let us know.
And as a standard reminder, please like, comment, and subscribe on whichever platform you're utilizing to consume this hangout. It manipulates the algorithm in our favor.
Yes, hit that subscribe button. Now, we want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over until we hang out next time.
Consider this structural anomaly. If Phaedra Parks knows the wife of the mystery man Kelly allegedly slept with during BT weekend, and she intervenes so forcefully to protect her identity on camera, what does that tell you about the invisible off-camera alliances that actually run this show? Who is really pulling the puppet strings in Atlanta high society?
Think about that the next time you watch a supposedly spontaneous argument. Let the sleuthing begin, babes. Who is the mystery man? Stay shady, stay messy, and we will see you on the snark side.